representing his hapu, Sarah is a rangatira representing her hapu. So even though there might only be X amount of people in the circle, each one represents quite a large grouping of people. So this becomes the gathering. And this is how decisions are made in Aotearoa at that period of time in 1835, like this. Pros and cons. Give it to me. What's the pros and cons?
Clash ideas or
Clashing ideas? So there's potential for like, well, I don't think so. I don't like your idea.
Yeah.
And what happens when people don't agree and this is the agreed way of doing things? We just continue to, Huh?
Disagree.
Yep. And then to flesh that out, we have to
Worse.
kōrero. That's right. So, ka te kai a te rangatira, I kōrero. So we keep talking until we decide, because we can't really move forward until we all agree. And we're all representing the things that are important to our people, so we're just going to have to keep coming back to it. So that's one of the tough things, is it takes a long time to make a decision. But what happens when a decision is made? Well, that's sort of
Unity.
so much unity, kotahitanga. Hey? And there's a lot of people behind a decision like this, and a lot of kaha, and all of a sudden, so it might feel like we're not getting anywhere. Why do Māori have to take so long to make a decision? And then, like, we're off, we're going. And so it's very quick once everyone comes to a decision. What's the alternative Western structure in 1835 at this time? What shape shall I draw?
Triangle.
That's right. Oops, it's the wonky triangle. It's more of a square. So let's just say the Queen or the King or the Pope or whatever. This is the default setting. Comes from probably Roman times as well. Very different, eh? What happens? Where's all the power in this model? It's here. Yeah. So you've got these two very different ways. Neither of them are wrong, they're just different. Neither of them are better necessarily, they just accomplish different things. And so the power is at the top and it's pushed down. Where does the power come from in this? It's actually the opposite. It comes out from the ground. And these people represent not themselves or their own agendas, but they represent their people and what their people want. So it's very much from the flax roots up, whereas a Western hierarchy is very much from the heaven, close to God, the top of the pyramid, down to the nothings at the bottom, right? And so England struggled with this, with the lords and the ladies and all of that kind of, people, the gentry that owned a lot of land, and who at the bottom was working it was everybody else. And so it was actually this group of people here who didn't have a whole lot of land, that when opportunities opened up here in Aotearoa and they were sold a big story, it's these ones who realised, hey, we've finally got an opportunity to have our own place. A lot of them were not these guys, some of them, but a lot of them were these people here. They were like, yes, let's go work hard over in Aotearoa, not realising actually what was really going on. Yeah. So these are the two leadership models. And so 1835, the gathering makes a statement of the obvious. We are sovereign nation or nations? Nations. We are sovereign people and we look after ourselves, and we already know that. We're not making the statement in 1835 for our benefit, because we already know that. We are sovereign. It's like if I came to your house, Ellen, and you felt that you had to make a statement of, this is my house, and I'd be like, I know, because you opened the door, you let me in, you're the one with the fridge and all the food, which I'm eyeing up, by the way, thank you for your hospitality. But I know the whole time it's your whare. You know that. You don't need to stand up and tell me that. Why would you ever feel that you needed to stand up and tell me that? When it was being challenged.
Oh, okay.
Right? So if I came into your house and went, that's a nice fridge of mine right there, yes. Excuse me, I want the best seat on the couch. Woo! All my other fun I'm going to come into. And everyone's like, hello, statement of the obvious here, this is my house. Just letting you know. So there's an element of, we already know, but you don't know, so we're just letting you know. Part of this was the establishment of a flag has anyone seen the flag with the white background?
Yeah.
And then it's got the red, kind of St George's, red and blue with the stars, yeah. That there is the flag that's associated with the Declaration of Independence. It was 1834. Long story goes with that one too. Very cool. But basically, Māori have been trading all over the globe for years. We make ships and all sorts, especially up north. We've got our own shipyard, and we are trading Kodi trees and flax because they make these really tough ropes and all this technology. And we're taking it all over the place. We are wealthy, much wealthier than these guys. We are thriving. And so we are here, there and everywhere. That's why Ruatara was trying to explore things, because we're used to kind of seeing what's going on out there. And one day the ship is basically, what's the word when your car gets impounded? Impounded. The ship is impounded. Why? It doesn't have a flag. And that's the rules around. If you're going to have a ship, you have to have a flag to declare who you are. Oh, fine. So they come up with a flag to identify themselves, and it's all agreed. And that was the first flag of Aotearoa. So when you see it, people usually sort of see it as, ooh, there's an angry flag. It's like a protest activist flag,
Yeah.
angry people flag. No, just the first flag of Aotearoa. But see how the story is being retold in different ways? Why would a person hold up the first flag of Aotearoa? To remind us of our own story, that's why. And so, 1835, we have a flag and a Declaration of Independence. Yes. Cool things happening over in England. There's this group, and they get together for church, and after church they hang out and they have like, you know, a big kai. They have this big kai together, and they dream up how they can change the world, starting with where they live. And in this group are, well, William Wilberforce's whānau, his nephews, and all of these other ones, the Venns, all of these guys, and it's the Clapham sect. And they're a group of Christian social activists that believe in the Lord and the love of God, and they want to make sure that no matter what's going on in the world, that somehow they can make a difference. So a lot of them are like working, what's his name, James Stephens? So James Stephens works in the Colonial Office, and he's a Christian, and there's all of these kind of people saying to the Crown, look, I know we are doing this whole colonial thing. This is my version of it, right? Because it's easier for you to understand. I know we're doing this whole colonial thing, but look at what's happening in Africa. Look at what's happening in India. Look at what's happening in all these places. And there's been so much devastation. That doesn't sit right with us. The next time we do anything, we need to think about how we actually protect the rights of the people that are there. And so we're leaning more towards a treaty, you know, as a way of actually treating with these people, negotiating, working things together to offer some protections. I really believe the Spirit was at work as they were planting those seeds. And so the conscience of, you know, England was beginning to wake up, the social conscience, and they're like, yeah, actually there's been a lot of not cool stuff, we need to do something different. And so our treaty here was a very different approach than they're taken with anyone else. So I want to talk about agendas. So some of the agendas around Te Tiriti o Waitangi, there was the Clapham sect. Their agenda was to try and soften what had previously been a really harsh approach to colonisation. What do you think some of the other agendas would have been in creating a treaty? Any other ideas? There's heaps of agendas, but just throw out
There'd
one.
be people that want land for free.
Yes. There were some people who wanted land. I'll tell you who wanted some land. It's one of my least favourite people, but God loves him. And that was Edward Gibbon Wakefield. Wakefield Street in Wellington. Old Edward Gibbon Wakefield. So he forms the New Zealand Company. Dum, dum, dum. He's in prison, right? He's got up to no good. And he's in prison, he's like, oh man, what am I going to do when I get out of here? I've got to come up with my millions, and I've got to come up with a really good ploy. And he'd heard about this beautiful Aotearoa, all these resources, and he thought, yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm very aware of this situation, and what if I offered the opportunity to have some land in this new place and kind of sold packages, parcels, and then figured out how I could actually get those parcels. And by the time people get over there, they can go and settle down and make a new life. They've never had ownership here because everything belongs to the gentry over here. But over there, a whole new world, you know. And so he's coming up with these ideas of how he can do that. And he makes a start. But over here, what had already happened is the missionaries were already here, and they start to hear, particularly Henry Williams, who gets a bad rap, but I actually think he's a bit of a superstar in many ways. Henry Williams hears about this dude, he's like, no, let me just interject and stop you right there, buddy. You can't go selling land that isn't actually yours. You can't go tricking people out of land, you know, like pick, let me say it to you this way. I have 8 siblings. 1, 2, oh no, I have 9 siblings now. I have 9 siblings. And out of all of us, if you picked a whole bunch of us, one's a lawyer, one's a psychologist, one is a teacher, one works in health, and then 2 of our brothers, one of my brothers had an accident when he was 20 on a motorbike, and so he's never really recovered from that accident. He has brain damage, and he's got quite a young maturity level, shall we say, and he's beautiful. And then my other brother, when he was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck, and he lost oxygen to his brain too. So 2 of my 3 brothers, if you try to negotiate anything with them, they give you everything. Because they're just like trusting as and very naive. Why would anyone try to rip them off? Hello. You try and talk to my psychologist sister, she'll psychoanalyze you before you've even finished the conversation. The lawyer will make sure that everything's down on paper before anything gets agreed to. So who you talk to in the whānau hapu iwi is very important. So how did this dude come by so much money? He chose people, often, him and a whole lot of other people were very deliberate about who they chose to have these conversations with. And then they do things like this. This is early in the piece when the government had kind of been established. Okay, so this is your land, Steve, you say, but you don't actually have any title to it. The piece of paper there in England, like we have title, you don't even have title. So I'll tell you what, if you want this piece of land, you can only have 10 people on the title that say that you own that land, okay? So now you have to take 250 people, cull 240 of them, choose 10, and then you have to line up at the court to register your land at the native land court. And there's all these people lining up, registering, and if they don't register, it's not their land, and then they have to wait for months, not hours, months, to register, to get a title. Oh, and it costs money too, for the legal fees and all that stuff, so they have to sell a piece. Yeah. And then, and also these people come and start selling them alcohol while they're waiting in line because there's not much to do, and offering them food. If they leave their place kind of in the line, you better go back to the end of the line. So you have to stay kind of there. So people are bringing you food and alcohol and all sorts of things. And then, but it's okay because you can tick it up. You can like pay it back later, like after pay. One instalment here, one instalment there. Okay? And so by the time you finish that process, you go home with your title for whatever's left. And so now you're earning less, you have less of a base to operate from. And you can see how this was part of this whole ploy from the beginning, all these new ways of breaking us up from our field. So, back to agendas. Yes, that was a long answer to a short